Today, I want to share with you the story of a man named Alan Brooks. He's 92 years old, and the way he has lived his life taught me something about aging that I think is worth talking about. Not about staying young, not about chasing time, but about finding peace while we grow older. In this video, we are going to talk about the small things that Alan learned to let go of and the small things he chose to keep close that helped him stay calm, warm-hearted, and clear in his spirit, even at this age. Alan told me something once that stayed with me. He said, "We do not become heavy because of years. We become heavy because of what the heart never puts down." And when he said that, I felt it. Maybe you feel it too. Because as we age, life gives us love, memories, wisdom, but it also gives us loss, regret, worry, and moments we still think about after all these years. And sometimes we carry things quietly, silently, thinking it doesn't matter anymore. But the heart remembers. What I learned from Alan is that it's never too late to learn how to live lighter. Not by forgetting the past, but by holding it more gently. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Just tell me your state below. When I asked Alan what felt the heaviest in his life, he didn't mention age or pain or losing strength. He said, very quietly, unspoken things. He told me about his relationship with his older sister. They were close growing up, the kind of close where one look was enough to understand each other. But somewhere in their 40s, a misunderstanding happened, something small, something that could have been cleared up in one calm conversation. But both of them were stubborn back then. Both felt hurt. Neither wanted to be the first to reach out. So days passed, then weeks, then years. And life has a way of moving forward, even when our hearts stay in old rooms. Alan said he didn't walk around thinking about the situation every day. It wasn't loud like that. It was just a quiet ache, something that showed up during holidays, on birthdays, or when he looked at family photos. A small tightening in the chest that says, "I wish things had gone differently." He never said anything to anyone. He just carried it. And carrying something for that long, it changes the way you breathe, even if no one can see it. Then, when he was about 67, he heard that his sister was sick. He wanted to go see her, but he didn't. He told himself it was too late, that too much time had passed, that she might not want to see him anyway. A few months later, she passed away. He said that was the first time in his life he felt truly heavy. One afternoon, he sat on his porch with a cup of tea and his journal. He didn't try to fix anything. He just wrote down everything he had wanted to say to her. The hurt, the love, the confusion, the wish that things had gone differently. He didn't show it to anyone. He didn't read it back. He simply closed the notebook and sat there quietly. And for the first time in years, he felt his chest soften a little. He told me, "Sometimes the heart just needs to be heard, even if the person we're speaking to isn't here anymore." Sometimes the weight we feel isn't age. It's just things left unsaid. 2. Pulling away from people. When Alan's wife passed away, he told me the world didn't feel loud. It felt quiet. Not peaceful quiet, the kind that follows you around the house. He didn't make any decision like, "I won't see people anymore." It just happened slowly. He stopped answering the phone some days. He told the church he was a little tired and might not make it this Sunday. He ordered groceries instead of walking to the store. Just easier, he said. And everyone understood. That's the thing. People understand, but they don't always return twice. So the world got quieter. He said it wasn't loneliness at first. It was numbness. Like his life kept happening, but he wasn't in it. One day, a little boy from the neighborhood knocked on his door. Dirt on his shirt, hair sticking up everywhere. One of those kids who always has grass on his pants. He asked, "Sir, do your apple trees have any apples? My mom says yours are the sweetest." Alan laughed when telling me this part. Sweetest? I hadn't even noticed if they were growing that year. But he walked out to the yard with the boy. They picked apples into a bowl. The boy told him about school, about losing a tooth, about nothing important at all. But it was the first real conversation Alan had had in months, and something in him woke up a little. He didn't suddenly throw open his doors or host dinner parties. That's not who he is. But the next morning, he walked to the small cafe on Main Street. He didn't talk much, just nodded, sat near people, drank his coffee slowly. Then a few days later, he went to Thursday poetry night again. Not to read, just to sit among others breathing. He said, "I didn't need company. I just needed to be seen." Sometimes we think we're pulling away to protect our hearts. But really, the heart just gets quieter and quieter and quieter. Alan didn't overcome loneliness. Nothing dramatic happened. He just let the world in, the smallest amount, one tiny door at a time. A wave to a neighbor, a seat at the cafe, a moment on a bench next to someone else. Not to talk, just to exist where life is still happening. 3. Movement, even when the body feels slow. Alan doesn't walk fast. His steps are small now, careful, almost like he's listening to the ground before trusting it. But what I noticed about him is that he still moves, every day, even on days when the sky feels heavy or his knees don't feel friendly. He said something once while holding onto the railing of his porch, adjusting his balance. "I don't move because I'm strong. I move so I don't forget how to live." There was a time he almost stopped, though. It happened in his early 80s. He slipped in the hallway. Nothing serious, no broken bones, but the fear stayed longer than the fall. He said the scariest part wasn't the fall itself. It was the thought, what if this is the beginning of the end? Fear is quiet like that. It doesn't take your legs. It just makes you afraid to use them. So he stayed home more. He sat longer. The days blended a bit. He felt older than he actually was. Then, one morning, he walked outside to check his mailbox. Just a few steps, nothing dramatic. But the air felt good. The sunlight didn't ask anything of him. So the next day, he did it again. And the next. Just to the mailbox, just there and back. He said it wasn't exercise. It was remembering. Remembering that the world still moves, and he could move with it even slowly. Now he waters his plants by hand, leaning a little on the railing when he needs to. He stretches his arms while waiting for the kettle to boil. He walks to the end of his driveway and pauses there, looking at the trees, taking a small breath before turning back. He told me, the trick is not to push. The trick is not to stop. And there was no lesson in his voice. Just a man who learned that movement isn't about strength or distance. It's about staying in conversation with life, even if the conversation is slow. Sometimes the most meaningful movement is simply not letting yourself fade from your own daily life. 4. Eating with presence. Alan doesn't follow any special diet. He isn't counting calories, he isn't trying to avoid certain foods because a book or a doctor told him to. His meals are simple, almost plain. But what stays with you is not what he eats. It's how he eats. Every morning he has the same breakfast: a small bowl of oatmeal, a few blueberries, one boiled egg, and coffee. Nothing fancy. But he always sits in the same chair by the same window. No television, no phone, no distractions. Just the quiet morning and the meal in front of him. He told me once, "I used to eat just to get to the next part of the day. Now I let eating be part of the day." There was a time in his 60s when eating became something he didn't even think about. Frozen meals heated in a hurry, snacks eaten while standing or walking around, dinners in front of the TV where he barely tasted anything. He wasn't overeating, he wasn't undereating, he just wasn't there anymore. Food had become background noise. And when life feels heavy, the small things, the meaningful things, are the first to slip away. Even something as simple and ordinary as sitting down to eat. One afternoon, he found an old photograph of his mother slicing apples at the kitchen table. Nothing special, just a quiet moment. But he remembered the sound of the knife, the smell of the apple skin, the pace of it. No rush, no hurry, just care. He said, "I remembered eating used to feel like being cared for." So he began again, slowly, gently, not with rules, not with a diet plan, just with presence. Now he sits when he eats. He tastes his food. He chews slowly. He lets the moment exist. And over time, something shifted. His appetite changed without effort. His body began to feel softer, less tense. His energy felt steady instead of up and down, and something in him felt more rooted, more present. He told me, "It wasn't the food that helped me, it was the respect. Respect for a body that has carried him through every season. Respect for time. Respect for the quiet company of his own thoughts." Sometimes we think we need big changes, but maybe we just need to come back to our plate, our chair, our breath, our moment. Just to remember we are still here. 5. Living in the past too long. Alan once told me that the past has a gentle way of calling our name, not loudly, not forcefully, just a quiet pull toward moments that are already finished. He said he spent many years waking up not to the day in front of him, but to memories behind him. Some were beautiful, some painful, and some unfinished. He lost his first child when the baby was only a few days old. He never talked about it for a long time, not because he didn't feel anything, but because he felt too much. The memories were heavy, and he wasn't sure how to hold them without breaking. Then there were other things too. Mistakes he made, words he wished he had softened, people he wished he had stayed in touch with. Life is long, and it leaves a trail. And sometimes, without meaning to, we sit down in that trail and stay there longer than we intended. He said the past didn't hurt him because it was painful. It hurt because he kept reliving it instead of remembering it. One evening when he was about 75, someone gave him a blank notebook. He didn't know what to do with it at first. It sat on his table for weeks. Then one night, when the house felt too quiet, he opened it and wrote a single line. "I forgive the version of me who did not know any better at the time." He didn't plan it, it just came out. The next night, he wrote 2 sentences. Not about the past itself, but about how he felt now. Not blame, not regret, just truth. Slowly, the memories began to soften. They didn't disappear, they didn't turn into joy. They just stopped holding his present hostage. He said, I learned to visit the past like a photo album, not like a place to live. Some memories still bring tears, some still bring warmth. But he closes the book now. He returns to the day he is in. He lets the sun touch his face. He lets life continue. And he told me this in the simplest way, without trying to teach anything. We don't have to erase the past. We just don't have to sleep in it. 6. Thinking it's too late to change. There was a time when Alan believed that growth had an age limit. He told me that after he turned 70, he assumed his story was mostly written. The main chapters were done, the rest was just the ending. He said he wasn't sad about it, just certain. That's how life works, he thought. You become who you are, and that's that. But something shifted in a way he didn't expect. One Christmas, his granddaughter gave him a small harmonica, a simple gift, nothing fancy. He smiled, thanked her, and placed it on his shelf. But later that night, when the house was quiet and the lights were dim, he picked it up, not to learn, not to improve, just to see what it felt like. The sound wasn't pretty. He laughed a little at how off-key it was, but something inside him felt awake. Not young, not excited, just alive. The next morning he tried again, just for a minute. The morning after that, he tried for 2. He wasn't trying to get good. He wasn't trying to achieve something. He simply allowed himself to be curious again. He said, "For the first time in years, I was a beginner, and it felt kind." Later he tried watercolor painting. Then he joined a small community reading circle. At 91, he started learning a few words in Spanish, just enough to greet his neighbor down the street. None of it was done to prove anything. It was simply the quiet act of letting himself still become. He told me, in a very gentle voice, "We don't stop growing because we get old. We get old because we stop growing." He didn't become a musician. He didn't become a painter. He didn't become fluent. He just became more himself. And that was enough. So he said this not as advice, just as someone who noticed it too late. You are not finished. The story didn't end. There is still room for one more beginning. When I think about Alan now, I realize he didn't live a perfect life. He didn't avoid pain, loss, regret, or loneliness. He simply learned how to stay present with the life he still had. And maybe that is what aging gently really means. Not going back, not chasing what's gone, just learning how to hold today with softer hands. He told me once, "There is still life here. You just have to let yourself notice it." Maybe your home is quieter now. Maybe routines feel familiar. Maybe some days are heavier than others. That doesn't mean your story has ended. It doesn't mean joy is behind you. It just means life has changed its pace. There are still small moments waiting for you. A warm cup of coffee, sunlight through a window, a short walk outside, a familiar song, a memory that makes you smile instead of ache. You don't have to rush. You don't have to fix yourself. You don't have to become someone new. Just take one gentle step at a time, because you are still here. Your presence still matters. Your heart is still speaking, and there is still more life to live.